Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 87, verse 23. Navritta manun manoksha drida yoga yujo hridiyan munaya upasate yad arayopi yayu smaranat striya uragendra bhoga mujadanda visaktadiyo Vayamapi te sama samadrishon krisaroja sudha
Nibratamarun mano kshatrasadho gayo hridiyan Mune upasate tatareo biyayu smarana Striya yogendra boha buddha danda vishakta idiyo Vayam apide sama samadrusho visaroja sudha Nibratamarano kshatrasadho yogiyo hridiyan
Nibrita, brought under control. Marut, with breathing. Mana, mind. Aksha, senses. Drida yoga, in steadfast yoga. Yuja, engaged. Hridi, in the heart. Yat, which. Munia, sages. Upasate, worship. Tat, that. Araya, enemies. Api, also. Yayu, attained. Smarana, by remembering. Striya, women. Uraga Indra, lordly serpents. The bhoga, the bodies. Bhuja, whose arms. Danda, rod-like. Vishakta, attracted. Diya, whose minds. Vayam, we. Api, also. Te, to you. Sama, equal. Sama, equal. Drisha, whose vision. Angry, of the feet. Saroja, lotus-like. Sudha, nectar. Translation: simply by constantly thinking of Him, the enemies of the Lord attained the same supreme truth whom sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms, for you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. Purport. According to Acharya Jiva Goswami, the few Shrutis, such as Gopal Tapani Upanishad, who identify the cowherd boy Krishna with absolute Brahman in his highest aspect, had so far been patiently waiting for their turn to speak. But after hearing the other Shrutis offer prayers, openly glorifying the Lord's personalities, these intimate Shrutis could no longer contain themselves, and so they spoke out of turn in this verse. Followers of the path of mystic yoga subdue their senses and minds by practicing breath control and severe austerities. If they succeed in thoroughly purifying themselves by this regimen, they may eventually begin to realize Paramatma, the personal form of Brahman within the heart. And if they continue this meditation without deviation for a long time, they may in the end come to the point of true God consciousness. But the same objective achieved in this difficult and uncertain way was also attained by the demons who were killed by Lord Krishna during his pastimes on the earth. Obsessed with enmity towards and demons like Kamsa and Shishapala quickly obtained the perfection of liberation simply by his killing them. Speaking for themselves, however, the personified Vedas here state that they would prefer to develop love of Godhead by learning to emulate the favorable surrender of Lord Krishna's confidential devotees, especially the young gopis of Vraja. Though they appeared to be simple women attracted conjugally to the Lord's physical beauty and strength, the goddesses of Vraja exhibited the highest perfection of meditation. The Srutis wished to become just like them. In this regard, Lord Brahma relates the following historical account in the supplement to the Brihad Vamana Purana. Brahmananda Mayo Loko Vyapi Vakunta Sangita Taloka Vasi Tatrastai Stuta Vedai Para. The infinite world of spiritual bliss is called the Vaikuntha. There the Supreme Truth lives, being glorified by the personified Vedas, who are also present there. Chiram Stutva Tatas Tushta Paroksham Praha Tangira Tushtosmi Bhuta Bo Pragya Varam Yam Manasepshatam. Once, after the Vedas had elaborately praised him, the Lord felt especially satisfied and spoke to them in a voice whose source remained invisible. My dear sages, I am very satisfied with you. Please ask of me some benediction that you secretly desire. Shrutaya uchu yatata loka vasanya kamata vena gopika vajanti ramana matva chikirsha jani nastapa. The Srutis replied, we have developed a desire to become like the cowherd women of the mortal world, who, inspired by lust, worship you in the mood of a lover. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Durlambo Durgata Chaiva Yusmakam Samanoratha Mayanu Modita Samyak Satyo Bhavitam Arhati. The Lord then said, this desire of yours is difficult to fulfill. Indeed, it's almost impossible. But since I am sanctioning it, your wish must inevitably come true. Agamani Vrinchau tu Jate Srishjartam Udite Kalpam Saraswatam Prapya Vraje Gopyo Bhavishata. When the next Brahma takes birth to faithfully execute his duties of creation, and when the day of his life called the Saraswata Kalpa arrives, we will all appear in Vraja as gopis. Pritavyam Bharate Kshetre Mature Mama Mandale Vrindavane Bhavishyami Prayan Vo Dasa Mandale. On the earth, in the land of Bharat, in my own district of Mathura, in the forest of Vrindavan, I will become your beloved in the circle of the Rasa dance. Jaradamena Susneham Sudardam Sarvatodikam Mai Samprapya Sarve Pi Kritakritya Bhavishata. Thus, obtaining me as your paramour, you will all gain the most exalted and steadfast, pure love for me. And in this way, you will fulfill all your ambitions. Brahmo Vacha Sutvaita Chintayantyas Ta Rupam Bhagavatas Chiram Uktakalam Samasadya Gopya Bhutva Haryam Gata. Lord Brahma said, after hearing these words, the Srutis meditated on the personality of Godhead's beauty for a long time. When the designated time ultimately arrived, they became gopis and obtained the association of Krishna. A similar account can be found in the Shrishtikanda of the Padma Purana, which describes how the Gayatri Mantra also became a gopi. Regarding the development of bhakti, Lord Krishna further states in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, Aputa Aputo Bhavati Yanmam Smritva Avrati Bhavati Yammam Smritva Nishkamasakamo Bhavati Yammam Smritva Asrotri Bhavati Yammam Smritva. By remembering me, one who is impure becomes pure. By remembering me, one who follows no vows becomes a strict follower of vows. By remembering me, one who is desirous develops desires to serve me. By remembering me, one who has studied no Vedic monastery becomes an expert knower of the Vedas. The Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad refers to the gradual steps in the process of becoming Krishna consciousness. Atma va'are trastavyo, srotavyo, mantavyo, nididhyasitavya. It is the self which must be observed, heard about, thought of, and meditated upon with fixed concentration. The idea here is that one should realize the Supreme Self as directly visible in his personality by the following means. First, one should hear the instructions of a qualified representative of the Paramatma and take the words of such a spiritual master into one's heart by offering humble service and striving in all ways to please him. One should then ponder the divine message of the spiritual master continuously with the aim of dispelling all one's doubts and misconceptions. Then one can proceed to meditate on the Supreme Lord's lotus feet with total conviction and determination. So-called Gyanis may think that the Upanishads praise Nirvishesh realization of the Supreme as more complete and final than Savishesh, a worship of the Supreme Godhead. All honest Vaishnavas, however, join in adhering to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, always meditating with pleasure on his infinitely wonderful, variegated spiritual qualities. In the words of the Sruti mantras, Yam Evaisha Vernute Tena Labhyas Taisesha Atma Vivrenute Tanum Swam. To that person whom the Supreme Soul chooses, he becomes attainable. To that person, the Supreme Soul reveals his personal form. Sridhar Swami concludes with the prayer, Charana Smaranam Premna Tava Deva Sudurlabham Yata Katanchit Nirhare Mama Bhuya Ahar Nisham. O Lord, loving remembrance of your lotus feet is very rarely achieved. Please, O Nrahari, somehow arrange for me to have the remembrance day and night. Translation: simply by constantly thinking of him, the enemies of the Lord attain the same supreme truth whom sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms, for you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. This is actually a very famous verse which is often quoted by our acharyas to show how the Shrutis were born as gopis, because we have the definition of the Nityasiddha gopis in the spiritual world, and then we have those who attain that position. And so we have the Shrutis, they attain the position of being gopis, and of course the sages of Dandakaranya also became gopis. And so we have sadhana siddhas. There are two examples of sadhana siddhas among the gopis. So this verse is often used to show how the Shrutis desired to attain the Lord in the same way that the gopis did. And so eventually, as it's explained here through the Brihad Vamana Purana, the Lord gave that blessing to them, and eventually they took up bodies of gopis and participated with Krishna in the Ras Leela. So, therefore, the position is attainable by persons. So there's a sadhana to attain such a position of being a gopi. As is mentioned here in the commentary, this is not all Shrutis, because here the Shrutis, but generally we speak rather impersonally of you, but now we want to develop a more personal relationship. So many of the Shrutis speak of the Lord in a general way, and though it's not completely impersonal, as expressed in the previous verses, definitely it is not very intimate. And thus we see the previous verses were all about the greatness of the Supreme Lord. But here we find a very intimate relationship with the Lord, where it talks about the gopis and how they are attracted to the Lord's arms and his embrace. And therefore the Shrutis aspire for a relationship like the gopis. The two instances mentioned in this verse of people who attain the Lord are of the general type of relationship. So we have the enemies of the Lord. They attain the Lord by constant remembrance. But though they remember the Lord, the form of Krsna, they do not develop the same type of relationship because their mood is quite different. They're enemies of the Lord. So therefore they don't have that same attraction that the gopis have, or that the Shrutis have to become gopis. So they get some attainment by that, usually moksha, liberation. And sometimes they get forms, as we see with Shishupala. So even with hatred, one can develop a form, so they get sarupya. But even if they get sarupya, that does not mean they have an intimate relationship with the Lord. So the intimacy requires not only a nice form in the spiritual world, but also a sadhana in which one cultivated an intimate relationship. And then one attains that relationship in the spiritual world. So the enemies didn't do any sadhana as such. They just hated the Lord, and that was enough. It caused absorption in the Lord. And because of that, it was just smarana here. By remembrance of the Lord, they attained the Lord. So that is one type. It's not bhakti, but it's one type of attainment. And also, this is, we can say, a unique characteristic of Krsna. When the demons remember Krsna, then they attain moksha, or sarupya. When a demon remembers another form of the Lord, he doesn't get that result. Okay? So in the Nectar Devotion there it says one of the qualities of Vishnu, to distinguish him from Brahma and others and Shiva, is that he gives the enemies that he kills a nice goal. So in other words, they don't go to hell. So in general, Vishnu kills a demon, he doesn't go to hell. Nrsimhadev kills a demon, he doesn't go to hell. But he also doesn't get liberated. So when Krishna kills a demon, he also gets a good goal, but much better than when the Vishnu kills the demon. So in other words, he gets liberation or he gets sarupya. So he gets a much higher goal. So though these five qualities, the five qualities of Vishnu distinguish him from Shiva are remarkable in one sense, when Krishna manifests these qualities, five qualities, they are even greater. So when he kills the demon, then they get liberation or they get Vaikuntha, Sarupya and Salokya. So very great. So it's a unique quality of Krishna. So in that sense, it's a praise of Krishna, to distinguish Krishna from others also. And on the other hand, we do have those who can be called devotees of sense, in a sense, the yogis. They control their breath, maru, mana, aksha, senses and mind, with a very determined yoga process. And they worship the Lord in the heart. So, they can attain the Lord in the heart. And generally this is Paramatma form. Right. Who is the form of the Lord, but also relationship is not established in an intimate way. When we desire to serve the Lord, and the Lord responds to that, and then we are worshipping Bhagavan. So we may have a Vishnu form and he looks exactly like Paramatma, but he can also be Bhagavan. if we worship him with devotion, as the Lord of Vaikuntha, etc. We want to serve him in that mood. Then he becomes Bhagavan. But when we meditate on him as the Lord in the heart, simply without any desire for service, then he's called Paramatma. So he has a function as the monitor within the jiva and the body and within material nature, etc. And he pervades everywhere, he witnesses everything, he's full of all knowledge, he is chit. So the yogis can appreciate the Lord in this aspect. And the reason they concentrate on him is because they want to get liberated. They want to control the senses, stop the karma, etc. So they meditate on Paramatma. So their goal is not exactly to serve the Lord eternally in the spiritual world, but to get liberation. And so they worship the Lord for that purpose in general. And then the Lord is merciful to them, and he helps them get liberation. So their realization of the Lord is truly, they do have a realization, but it is, again, not very intimate at all. It's quite distant. And how do they do that? Meditation, constant remembrance. So just as the demons absorb themselves in the Lord, so the yogis also absorb themselves in Paramatma, and then they gain liberation. So they get something like the same goal as the demons, even though different process, more favorable. So that's remarkable, and that shows the extraordinary nature of the Supreme Lord, that he can give a similar goal to the demons. Of course, this is used to illustrate then what is the use of doing yoga, because you can be a demon and get the same goal, so end up in the same position of Brahma Nirvana. So what is it? What's so good about aspiring for Brahma Nirvana with all the effort that it takes, when that's what the demons get? So therefore, rather we do some very favorable service to the Lord, then we get a realization of Bhagavan in the spiritual world. So, therefore, realization of Bhagavan is superior to Paramatma realization. But then, among the forms of Bhagavan, the realization of Krishna is superior to the others because the relationship is more intimate. And then if we realize Krishna in Vrindavan, then it is even more intimate. And if one can realize the relationship of the gopis with Krishna, it's the most intimate of all. It's the most intense of all. So the Shrutis here are expressing that desire. They want that most intimate type of relationship with the Supreme Lord, not that of the demons or of the Paramatma yogis. They want the most intimate relationship with the Lord of all. And therefore they describe the gopis' relationship with Krishna. So in this way, here these particular Shrutis, that is the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, this particular Shruti is glorifying Krishna directly, not just Bhagavan or Supreme Lord, but Krishna as the ultimate goal. Often when there is glorification here, there's the glorification of Supreme Lord because he is the creator and destroyer of the material world. This is more or less Paramatma function. So again, the relationship is quite distant. Definitely there is an element of devotion there, but it's a little distant. So here we, as the commentary expresses, the Gopal Tapani Upanishad got a little impatient hearing all these praises of the Lord in a very distant way. So then this Gopal Tapani Upanishad speaks up and directly praises Krishna and the relationship with the gopis as being highest type of relationship for aspiration. So in this way we see that through the prayers of the personified Vedas we get direct praise for Krishna and Madhurya Rasa, though we don't expect usually the Shrutis to make such statements. But as we see here, ultimately, not only the Gopal Tapani Upanishad has its desire, we see that other Shrutis also had that desire, and therefore they got the benediction of finally becoming gopis eventually. So it is not only the Gopotapani Upanishad, but those Shrutis which express the Lord rather indirectly, even they developed a taste for Krishna and conjugal relationships. So they got that desire fulfilled eventually, and they became gopis in Krishna's pastimes. So this shows that by aspiring within this world in a certain way, one can attain a relationship with the Supreme Lord. And according to the aspiration, one attains the result. So here the personified Vedas are aspiring for conjugal rasa, and that's exactly what they attained. They got that result finally. And so they are examples of sadhana siddha gopis in the pastimes of Krishna when he appeared. So I said, generally the Upanishads speak a little indirectly and very formally, but here we find a very direct expression of a very intimate relationship with the Supreme Lord. Now, though these statements on the one level talk about generally the Lord's powerful aspect, Prabodhananda Saraswati takes all the verses of the gopis to indicate Madhurya Rasa, because all the gopis all the Upanishads became gopis eventually. So they're speaking from the gopi point of view. So even the ones that seem to be rather distant, he interprets all those verses as actually expressing Krishna in Vrindavan and his relationship with the gopis. So though we can say that's the hidden meaning of the verse. Now the other acharyas, of course, generally they take the direct meaning, and they just take the Krishna as the cause of the universe, etc. But Prabodhananda Saraswati takes them all as indicating pastimes in Vrindavan, etc. So justifiable, because as this verse expresses, the Upanishads eventually became gopis, so therefore they do appreciate Krishna and his relationship in Vrindavan with the gopis.
Guru explained that souls like Sishyapal, they get a special position in the spiritual world, but they don't have an intimate relationship. But are these souls given an opportunity to take part in any sort of lila in the spiritual world where they enact an inimical role there? Just as Sishyapal, who has been constantly thinking of Lord because of his initial attitude.
Yeah.
Does he get a similar role in the spiritual world also?
What's the demon?
The Leelas?
No. Though he thinks of the Supreme Lord constantly because Krishna is most attractive. Through that constant thinking of the Lord in hatred, eventually all of his anarthas are destroyed. So whether you think in hatred or in love, by constant thought of the Lord, all the anarthas get destroyed. Of course, it's much quicker if you think favorably, but for Sishyapal, again, from his very birth onwards, he was meditating on the Lord in hatred, so it took a long time, but eventually all of his bad qualities were annihilated, and then the Lord killed him, and then he got a spiritual body. So at that point, therefore, he had no more animosity to the Lord. So he's a type of devotee. And of course, by contact with the Lord Sudarshan Chakra, he also got prema. But it is not as strong as the prema that those who cultivate a relationship with the Lord favorably get. They get a much stronger relationship. And so therefore, he does get a role to play as a devotee in the spiritual world, but it is a much weaker relationship than that of devotees who during sadhana cultivate a favorable relationship.
Brahmana Purana verse quoted, it says that in the Saraswata Kalpa, the gopis, the Shrutis will take the form of gopis. But we are presently in the Varaha Kalpa. So did these pastimes or the Bhagavatam happen in a previous Kalpa? The Bhagavatam?
Oh, well, which pastimes?
The whole of Bhagavatam, it is supposed to be written for Saraswata Kalpa.
Well, yeah, in the Saraswata Kalpa they became gopis. Yeah.
And this is Varaha Kalpa. So
Yeah.
the Bhagavatam of a different Kalpa, this Bhagavatam.
Is this Bhagavatam?
Yes, Bhagavatam.
Well, actually, Bhagavatam will appear in every kalpa. Because Krishna appears in every kalpa, in the 28th cycle of Manvantara, Vaisvata Manvantara, and then he has his pastimes, and Veda Vyasa sits down and writes the Puranas, and Bhagavatam, etc. So the Bhagavatam appears in every kalpa also, and Krishna's pastimes also appear. And of course, so many devotees also become Siddha and join the pastimes.
Grantharan Sri Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. This one was Manu Maharaj ki jai. Jai.